Hey everyone, today I want to talk about something that trips us up a lot in relationships, and it's why is it so hard to own our responsibility during arguments? I see this over and over again in my practice where couples really only see their side of things and want to blame the other person for the problem. And it got me curious and I really wanted to understand this. So I want to go over that today. And what I found was 7 reasons why we often blame the other person even when we're part of the problem. Okay, so it's grounded in a lot of neuroscience and that can help explain this. And trust me on this, understanding these can change how you approach conflict forever. So I believe this is worth watching. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is something called cognitive biases. This is a self-serving filter. Okay, so first of all, our brains love to protect us from emotional pain. We have what's called a self-serving bias, which is like wearing glasses with tinted lenses. Everything looks skewed in our favor. Scientifically, it's because of the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning. It works to help us feeling good about ourselves. But during conflicts, the amygdala, your brain's threat detector, kicks in to protect you from emotional danger. It floods your body with stress hormones like cortisol, making you more reactive and less clear-headed. So think of it like this, like it's your brain and your brain is wired to say, this is a threat to my self-image, and it responds by defending you fiercely. It's kind of like a bodyguard. That's why it's so hard to see your part in it. Your brain is trying to keep you safe from feeling vulnerable or rejected. So what you can do about this is ask yourself, what am I missing here? What could I be missing? Could I see this from my partner's perspective? Get external feedback, talk with a trusted friend or a therapist to gain outside perspective and see if it matches your objectivity. Another thing you can do is pause before responding, take a breath and ask, is there another way to see this? Emotional reactivity is the second thing I want to go over, and this is the emotional fire. So when emotions run high, your brain reacts like it's in fight or flight mode. So the amygdala, that tiny almond-shaped part of your brain, activates strongly during arguments. It's your brain's emergency response system. It floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol, making you react impulsively rather than clearly. So imagine trying to see straight in a storm where there's lightning and thunder and chaos. That's why in heated moments, it's really tough to see your own faults. The solution is to take a deep breath and really step back because you're too close to it. Give yourself a moment. And when you do, it's like turning on the prefrontal cortex that I talked about earlier, the part of your brain that helps you think rationally and see the bigger picture. So what you can do here is pause and breathe, again, pausing and breathing before responding. Take a few deep breaths to calm the amygdala down. Practice mindfulness. Regular mindfulness practices strengthen your prefrontal cortex, helping you stay calmer in conflicts. Really delay the reactions. If you're overwhelmed, say, let me think about this instead of reacting instantly. And make sure you communicate with your partner what you're doing. Don't just go silent at this moment. Okay, the third thing I want to talk about is fear of vulnerability. It's the armor of defense. So admitting fault feels risky to most people. It's kind of like lowering your armor in battle. So when you're vulnerable, your amygdala perceives it as a threat. It signals danger. It prompts you to shut down or deny what's happening. Think of a turtle withdrawing into its shell. That's what many do when they feel exposed. But here's the truth. The real strength is in being brave enough to show vulnerability. Building trust and safety in your relationship rewires this response. Okay, so you can unlearn this. The more you practice opening up, the more your prefrontal cortex helps you regulate the fear. So what you can do is build trust gradually over time, share small vulnerabilities regularly. Okay, so baby steps towards vulnerability. And this will strengthen the safety net and reframe what vulnerability is. See it as a sign of strength, not weakness. There's a lot of research proving this point. Practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself when it's hard to admit fault. Just say, hey, listen, it's hard to admit faults. Everybody, struggles with this, but I can overcome it, okay? The fourth thing I want to talk about is people tend to have unconscious patterns in upbringing, and it's kind of like the blueprint So our relationship habits are like blueprints built in childhood. So your early childhood experiences taught you to externalize blame, maybe externalize blame or avoid responsibility. And those patterns become very automatic. It's like following an old blueprint. It's familiar, even if it's not healthy, we're still going to go down that path. Familiarity means safety in some cases, right? So scientifically, this involves the default mode network. It's the brain's autopilot system that runs those subconscious scripts, okay? Once you recognize these patterns, you can start rewiring your brain. You create new, healthier pathways. And that's the beauty of brain plasticity, that you can rewire and increase and widen the ability to let new information in. Okay, so what you can do here, some strategies, is to become very self-aware. Really notice when you're blaming others or avoiding responsibility. Reflect honestly, really take time to reflect after a conflict and ask yourself, where did I learn this behavior? Rewire the pattern, practice new responses, and challenge old beliefs consciously. All right, the fifth thing is the perception of fairness, the justice scale. So our sense of fairness is often very skewed. When we see ourselves as justified, the other person's actions as unfair. So it seems like it's instinctual to see it this way. So if we feel justified, then it must mean the other person is being unfair. So it's because the parts of our brain perceive threats or a moral self-image. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex involved in moral reasoning works over time to defend us. So meanwhile, the insula, which processes social pain, heightens feelings of injustice. All right, so this is a lot of chemical things going on here. So this creates a one-sided view that makes it really hard to see your contribution to the problem. The key here is humility. Humility. Ask yourself, what role did I play? Engaging your cognitive control system to override the automatic biases, okay? So you've got to understand that there's pre-wiring, there's core beliefs that we have to rewire when we see it become a problem, okay? Now, you also want to seek perspective. Imagine how you'd feel if the roles were reversed. So emotional intelligence requires us to see everybody's perspective, not just our own. So the ability to see my perspective, your perspective, and the big picture is emotional intelligence. Okay, the sixth thing is power and control. Okay, refusing responsibility can be to maintain control over the situation because it's a survival. Your dopamine system, the brain's reward center, makes asserting dominance feel really good. When you deny fault, it's like winning a small battle, which boosts your sense of power, especially if you feel powerless in other areas of the relationship. So it's instinctual, okay? So you got to make the subconscious very conscious. But is it real power? No. It's about mutual accountability here. That's power. When you own your part, you activate the prefrontal cortex, and it helps you see beyond the immediate gratification, and it fosters cooperation. So some solutions are to shift to mutual growth, focus on how responsibility can strengthen the relationship as a whole versus just I'm winning. Think of the relationship as winning. Share responsibility, make it a team effort rather than a battle. Reframe the ownership, owning your part as a sign of strength. It's not weakness, it's strength. You're the bigger person, you're more mature if you own things, all right? Now the last and the seventh thing I want to go over is people who don't take responsibility lack self-awareness, okay? Some folks just don't see their own actions because they're walking around in a dark room. Your brain's self-monitoring systems like the anterior cingulate cortex are responsible for awareness. If these aren't functioning well, or if you're avoiding reflection, you really bump into problems without even realizing it. So turning on the light through honest reflection, feedback, and mindfulness really helps your brain to see what's going on, okay? And some strategies could be to practice reflection, regularly ask, what role did I play? You see, this is a theme now. Ask for feedback from objective people, and develop mindfulness. So be very aware and strategic and intentional in everything you do and why you're doing something. So don't be mindless, be mindful. So cultivate awareness of your thoughts and feelings in real time. So those are the 7 reasons why it's so tough to see our responsibility during conflicts. And this is really backed by science. And understanding these mechanisms isn't about blaming ourselves. It's about recognizing that our brain is wired to protect us, and sometimes at the expense of clarity. So here's the good news though. Once you understand how your brain works, you can start rewiring these responses for healthier, more honest relationships. And I want to offer you something. If you want to dive deeper into this, I'm launching an online course very soon. It's not out yet, but it's in the works. And it includes real life examples, role plays with actors, and practical tips with companion worksheets and guides to help you navigate through these challenges. So stay tuned, follow, ring the bell for updates on the launch. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.